Okay, so let's share screen. All right, now we're moving on to chapter 3, okay, our embryology. Okay, so the quick overview, okay. So the beginning of, human life is split into 3 periods: the pre-embryonic period, the embryonic period, and the fetal period. The pre-embryonic period is the first 2 weeks after the fertilization of the egg, okay, where you kind of float around, you plant, and you start to grow into the uterus. The embryonic period is the 3rd through 8th weeks. This is where all the major organs start to develop, okay? These two are where things can most likely go wrong. So this is why things go wrong early, and that's because you're developing organs, and if things screw up, then basically things go SOL, and it doesn't go to completion. After 8 weeks, you enter the fetal period. The fetal period really is growth and development. You're just getting bigger, okay? Okay, so embryogenesis, okay? This is the organogenesis. So this is the fetal period, and then, this is growth and development, okay? Gametogenesis, development of gametes. This only occurs in 2 places: in the testes in males and in ovaries in females. Okay, and gametogenesis goes through the process of meiosis. Okay, meiosis produces 4 haploid daughter cells from 1 diploid parent cell. Okay, so here are the stages of meiosis. Okay, what's important actually are the first 3 stages. Okay, so mitosis is prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. Meiosis is 2 separate mitosis events in reality. Prophase 1, anaphase 1, telophase, prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, and then prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase. But the most important stuff happens very early. Okay, so you have the replicated chromosomes here. The most important thing in this stage is the crossing over, okay? So they pair up, that's called synapsis, and then they cross over. The little pieces of DNA from each chromosome cross over. So you swap. So in these diagrams, the blue is the one you inherit from your father, and the red is the one you inherit from your mother, okay? But during this stage, they swap little pieces of the red and blue. That's why it you can see that here, little pieces of the red and blue swap. And that actually makes every single chromosome you can possibly inherit, okay, different. So the chromosome number 1 you inherit is not from your grandfather. It's a mixture of your mother's, okay, of your grandfathers, both grandfathers, and stuff like that. So it's a mix, okay? And so every chromosome you can possibly inherit is a mixture of the 2 your mother has or the 2 your father has, okay? Okay, so that actually increases genetic diversity, which is the whole point of this whole thing. The other thing is the phase 1, the homologous chromosomes line up side by side. Instead of forming 1 row, they make 2 rows. This makes division, okay? You're splitting the DNA in half. So half the DNA goes into each cell, okay? So prophase 1 is exactly like prophase, except, except the crossing over okay, allows for genetic diversity. Metaphase one, the difference is this independent assortment. You have random chromosomes going to either direction, and that makes, again, incredible amount of genetic diversity. Okay, so just from the random assortment or independent assortment, okay, that means you as a human can make about 7 million different combinations of gametes without anything else. Okay, and in reality, we make much more than that. So every one of our offspring is going to be different than every other one of our offspring. Okay, anaphase one. The importance of this is called the reduction division, because like you're not splitting the chromosome in half. You're taking half the chromosome to the right and half the chromosome to the left. So you're having the chromosome number. The rest of this, okay, is exactly like mitosis. Okay, so you can see it resembles prophase and mitosis, and all the way through is basically the same for a second mitotic division. Okay, what's important to know, okay, is you produce at the very end 4 haploid daughter cells instead of one cell divides into 2, one cell divides into 4. Each 4 has 23 single-stranded chromosomes. Okay, and that's important because those 23 from your mother and 23 from your father make 46. So you have, when the egg meets the sperm, the zygote will now have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs of chromosomes. Meiosis is where they divide the chromosome number in half. Okay, the males are much easier, the females are much harder. Okay, in females, this process is called oocyte development or oogenesis. The oo, it means egg. So anything oo in front of it means egg. Okay, the oogonia will undergo the process of oogenesis. Okay, the primary oocytes are arrested in prophase 1 during the fetal period. So a female is literally born with all the eggs that she will ever have. Okay, this process starts in the fetal period, but then it stops and pauses for a very long time, and it doesn't pick up until puberty again. Okay, after puberty, some cells receive a signal to resume meiosis 1. Okay, the cytokinesis is not even here. Okay, so you want all the cytoplasm to go to one cell. Okay, that cell will be the egg. The other cell will be called the polar body, and its job really is to get rid of half the DNA. Okay, and then so you divide in half, the 2 nucleuses are equal, but all the cytoplasm ends up on one of them, and none of the cytoplasm ends up on the other one. And so the other one is really small and dies. The bigger one is going to have all the cytoplasm and live, and that will be turned into your future egg. Okay, the secondary oocyte. Okay, that secondary oocyte will arrest at metaphase 2 and will be ovulated. Okay, so it'll stop in the middle of the second phase of meiosis, and it doesn't complete until after fertilization. Okay, when you ovulate not only the egg, but the egg is surrounded by 2 things. Okay, the layer right around the egg is called the zona pellucida, clear zone. Okay, the outer layer is called corona, sun, right? Radiata, radiating sun, and you can see, okay, the radiating sun, the zona pellucida. Okay. Okay. Sperm. Okay. Sperm cells, sperm development, spermatogenesis. Okay. The primary spermatocyte undergoes meiosis, producing 4 haploid spermatids containing 23 chromosomes. So one cell divides into 4, each one of those 4 turns into sperm, as opposed to the egg where one cell turns into 1 egg. Okay, so one cell turns into 4 sperm. Okay, so here's your sperm. The sperm, okay, has to undergo capacitation. This occurs within the female reproductive tract. Okay, this gets everything ready, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. So the phases of fertilization, the sperm penetrates the corona radiata. So when the sperm hits egg, it's not one sperm hitting egg like they show in that picture. It's 1,000 sperm hitting the egg. Okay. You start off with millions of sperm inside the uterus, and only about 1,000 get to the egg. Okay, but those 1,000 work together, and they have to penetrate all this. So they dig their way through the corona radiata, and then they start using their enzymes on the surface to actually secrete. It's called a chromosome reaction. They start eating away at the zona pellucida, and as soon as one sperm enters, that egg changes and pops off all the other sperm. And then that sperm that's left, it will insert its nucleus into the sperm, or into the sperm will insert its nucleus into the egg. And these 2 nucleuses will fuse into 1 nucleus, and that is fertilization. Okay? Okay, as soon as it's fertilized, that is no longer sperm and egg. It is now a zygote. Okay? Okay. That zygote will undergo a series of mitotic divisions called cleavage. So right now, from the point of view of the zygote, it is floating through the fallopian tubes and into the uterus right now. It hasn't implanted yet, so there's no nutrients, or there's very little nutrients. Okay, so what happens is the cell starts to divide, but it doesn't get any bigger. It just divides. Okay, at the 16 cell stage, the structure is called a morula. That is a circle of cells. After the morula, it enters the uterine cavity. It becomes called a blastocyst. A blastocyst. Okay, so this is a morula. It's 16 cells. This is a blastocyst. Okay, so now we have shape. Now there's like, you can start to see like, at this stage is a ball of cells. Now we're starting a ball of cells, but it's hollow, and there's stuff on one side that's not on the other. Okay, so this here, that's the late blastocyst. Okay, the thing that will eventually develop into the embryo, that is called the embryoblast. That's that blob in the middle right there. Okay, that blob in the middle will develop into a bunch of things, some of it being the embryo, which you'll see in a little bit. Okay. So the blastocyst hatches out of the zona pellucida and can interact with the endometrium. Okay. There you go. So now I implant this thing into the embryo, or into the uterus, sorry. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to this thing right here. Okay, see this thin yellow layer and this blue layer? Those two are the bilateral germinal discs that will turn into the embryo. Okay, those two layers. Okay, now you can see a primitive yolk sac right here. Okay, the yolk sac is not what it sounds like. Not yolk. There's no yolk in there. Okay, I'll explain a while later. Okay, so that is the bilateral germinal disc. You're starting to grow an amniotic cavity right here. Okay, that is the beginning of the amnion. Okay, so now, okay. The bilateral germinal disc produce three extracellular membranes: the yolk sac, the amnion, and the chorion. Okay. Um, I want you guys to do something. Take an egg, put it in vinegar. The shell will come off. What you'll see is the yolk. It's the yolk sac, obviously. Okay, but if you remove the shell, you'll see that it's floating around in a sac. That sac is called the amnion. Okay, when you break the eggshell, you're breaking the sac. Okay. Okay. And then last is the chorion. The chorion is the membrane that's responsible for formation of the placenta. From the point of the view of the fetus, that chorion is the fetal tissue that will interact with the maternal tissue that is the placenta. Okay? Okay. So that's your yolk sac. Okay? It produces some blood vessels and stuff, but really that's a we used to come from reptiles, and reptiles they lay eggs just like chickens do. Okay, as we became mammals, we this development occurred, but we still left over from the yolk sac. Yolk sac has no nutrients in it because we don't produce any yolk protein, even though we have the genes for it, but we don't produce any yolk. Okay, that gives rise to early blood vessels and stuff, because those are the blood vessels that would normally take in nutrients, but because they're not there, they don't really do anything. Okay. Okay. We also, so when we grow up in something called an amniotic cavity. Okay, is it the water that surrounds us? That's why when your water breaks, that's the amniotic fluid breaking. Okay, it provides a cushioning support. Okay, and then the last layer, okay, is the chorion. Okay, the chorion. Okay, uh, uh, the chorion is going to be. I don't know what they show it. Okay, so there. I guess this is the best picture. These things are called chorionic villi. Okay, the chorionic villi are going to be the fetal blood source, and it's going to pull from the maternal blood. So the fetal blood will be stronger than the maternal blood, and it will pull resources from the maternal blood, including oxygen and food. Okay, and take it back. Okay, into the embryo. So this structure eventually develops into the placenta. Okay, the placenta is the only organ that has two origins, one from the embryo, one from the mother. Okay. Okay. Okay, embryonic period. So let's talk about this. Okay. The first thing that happens, okay, is you generate a primitive shrink. Okay? So let me show you what that means. Okay? So here, remember, I told you to remember the two discs. So here's the two discs. Okay? You form a primitive shrink here. Okay? That eventually turns. So, and then that's the future mouth. This is, you can see this is will be the cephalic end. This will be the head end. This is going to be the end, tail end, basically, of your. So not your legs, but basically the end of your butt will be here. Okay, the end of your butt will be here. This will be your mouth. Okay, but this streak starts secreting more cells into this layer here. So now instead of 2 layers, you have 3 layers. The 3 layers are now named ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Okay. Okay. So ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Okay. So now we are a 3-layered organism. Those 3 layers start growing really fast. So what happens now is it grows fast. So what ends up happening is it folds in on itself. And when it folds in on itself, you get this. Okay? So the head to tail fold, you get this. The side to side fold, you get that. So what happens now is you can see the outside, the middle, and the inside. The outside, the middle, and the inside. Okay? So ectoderm, ecto outside, meso middle, endo inside. Okay? The ectoderm will turn into things on the outside. Your skin, your epidermis, okay, hair, nails, etc. Your nervous system, okay. Your mesoderm. I'm gonna skip first. We'll go through all the layers. The mesoderm will turn into everything in the middle, okay. So this is mesoderm. This is the slide I want to show you. Okay. This is the ectoderm. Okay, this is the mesoderm. This is the endoderm. Okay, so the endoderm will be the innermost lining of the respiratory tract, the innermost lining of the digestive tract. Okay, the mesoderm will actually be everything in the middle, which is a lot, bone, muscles, etc., etc., blood. Okay. 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 The relation. Okay. Okay. It's the formation of the neural tube. Okay. The neural tube will develop into your CNS. Your neural tube is extremely important, and one of the reasons why if you're trying to get pregnant, they tell you to take folic acid or eat a lot of spinach, is because folic acid is necessary for the proper development of the neural tube. Okay. Okay. So the rest of this, after the, so you start having organ development, and then finish by week 8, and then you just grow from there. Okay. Okay. So fetal period is just body getting bigger and bigger, etc., etc. Okay. So hopefully you understood all that. Okay. I'm gonna pause right here. Okay. I will see you for chapter 4. Chapter 4 is much longer. It deals with tissues. All right, and tissues. I've come to realize is one of the harder things for you guys to understand. So I'll try to explain it in a little bit more detail.